So here's the deal, right? Here's the deal, we're back. And that's the craziest part of it, isn't it? That Fred on Film is back a bloody gain. Thank God. What we're going to do without it. I'm not only back, but I'm just like trying to hold back from doing more and more episodes. Like I'm like, I went to see Fantastic Four this morning. I'm recording this on Thursday. I'm hoping I'm going to release this tomorrow morning on Friday. I went to see Fantastic Four this morning just so I could record this now and release this tomorrow. And I've already seen Bring Her Back, which I'm going to do a review for. And I'm like, oh, maybe I can get that out Monday. Maybe I won't, by the way. But anyway, point is that I'm just so enthusiastic about this fucking poddy. I'm getting some really nice word from the people listening. Just everything is just coming up Millhouse for Fred on Film and the FOF community. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. We're at Fred Asquith on Film on TikTok and Instagram. And you can get it wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts and Spotify preferred. Today we're going to be talking about Fantastic Four First Steps. And we're also going to be revealing the top 10 comfort movies as voted by you on my at Fred Asquith on Film Instagram story. I also saw the Avatar trailer before Fantastic Four. And we're going to finish off with a little event recommendation. So let's crack on. Actually, first things first, Time magazine released their top 100 best podcasts of all time, and I wasn't on it. What? Can you imagine? Crazy. They must have a grudge. That's what I realized. They must have a grudge with me because there is no reason why you wouldn't put this podcast on the top 100 podcasts of all time. And you might be saying, well, Fred, maybe it's because you started this podcast so recently. Not true. Because if you check this RSS feed, just in different guises, what goes all the way back to September 2024, right? I've been doing this podcast. And you know what else is in the top 100 best podcasts of all time? Good Hang with Amy Poehler. Do you know when that started? March 2025. Dong, dong, dong. That's the judge banging his gavel. Dong, dong, dong. I rest my case, okay? Quick recommendation, straight out of the gate. Blackberry, which is kind of a comedy. It's a what would you call it? A biographical true story? What would you call it? Comedy, anyway, based on the making of the Blackberry modular phone. And imagine Social Network mixed with The Big Short. Like, imagine it's kind of like so silly character comedy, but in this like really interesting true story in this like corporate tech startup world. Highly recommend it. That's all. It came out. It like got made like 4 years ago and never really got a wide release. And I had it on my notes to watch for years and years and years. And I finally got it. It finally got released on Prime and it was like 13 quid to buy or something last year. We had such a great time, me and my darling. And then now it's on Netflix for free. So go and enjoy it. Blackberry. Also, another thing I rewatched in the last week was I was severely ill for 24 hours. From Sunday into Monday, I think it was. And I have a dodgy stomach at the best of times. So I was like, oh, this must be an IBS episode, which is something I get like semi-regularly. But anyway, it turns out it wasn't because the symptoms were not the same. And like, it was ugly, let me tell you. Anyway, so I was just lying awake there. You know when you just feel so ill, so sick, nothing's happening, but you still can't get to sleep. I felt like that for the entire night. I was basically woke up at 2 and I just stay awake the entire night, just feeling sick. So I was like, right, I'll put a film on. And like, you know, when you have to kind of pick a film quietly, because obviously my darling's sleeping next to me, and you have to pick a film in the middle of the night when you're not thinking straight and everything's quiet, so you can't be tapping around too much. And I've got this little iPhone arm that comes out of my bed for like, what's the word? Emergencies like this, right? Nothing dodgy, okay? And so I'm like kind of like arching that down and trying to get it in, and I'm like scrolling through, and I'm like, what should I want something that might send me to sleep, but that is quite engaging at the same time. Anyway, I settled on Steven Spielberg's The Post, journalistic pre-Watergate scandal drama, The Post. What a fucking movie, eh? What a fucking movie. I mean, if you go on my letterboxd at Fred Asquith, then you'll see I only gave it 3 stars. To me, 3 stars is a recommendation. It's like, I was thoroughly entertained by this movie. I have seen it before, but it was just the perfect choice. Exactly what I said. It was engaging enough, but it might have sent me to sleep at the same time. In a positive way. It's just like, it's quite vanilla entertainment. And again, I don't mean that as a bad thing, because Steven Spielberg probably did that shit with his hands tied behind his back. Like, he probably did it fucking asleep. He probably did it high. Like, he probably did it like tied up in a straitjacket on top of a plinth doing a David Blaine stunt, right? That guy just shits films like that out. Incredible. Quickly, let's run through the top 10 comfort movies as voted by you, because obviously the morning after, I was like, I watched the post in the middle of the night on my Instagram story. Guys, what's your favourite comfort movie when you're feeling ill? Because I was ill the entire next day. I was like, what shall I watch? And I counted. I actually did a reply box on my story, and so I got all these text replies. Right, I was like, how can I count all these fucking replies? I should have done like a poll or something. So I screenshotted them all, put them into GPT. What a system that is. I don't use GPT as like my counselor, and I don't use GPT for like creative ideas. It can get to fuck, right? I'll talk to you in 10 years, right? You're not human. But just turning my fan off, which is making a squeaky noise. But I will give you menial data-driven tasks, right? So it counted up the top 10 comfort movies as voted by you, and numero uno was Chef, the Jon Favreau food-based comedy, Chef, which I quite like. I can see why it's a comfort movie, because let's just say right off the bat, there's a certain aesthetic to a comfort movie, which is, what shall we say? Exactly what I said about the post, really. It's like, it's engaging. I was going to say it's comforting, obviously, but it's comforting in kind of it's like, what is the word? Familiarity. And it has to be familiar in a warm way. Like, you're not going to... A comfort movie is not like Requiem for a Dream, like, oh, it's my favourite film, I've seen it 3 times kind of thing. Like, my favourite films are Whiplash, There'll Be Blood, that kind of thing. That's not a comfort movie, really. But some of my other favourite films, like Before Sunrise or Titanic, they are comfort movies, right? Ideally, a comfort movie wouldn't be too long, though, so Titanic probably wouldn't be that. Although I will accept Lord of the Rings, which may or may not be in this list. Actually, it's fucking not. Oh, well, it was in the top, like, 20. So at number 1, Chef. At number 2, The Princess Bride. Great decision. I mean, that is a top 10 comfort movie. It's like just the right length. It's just the right silly, just the right serious. It's kind of fantasy, fable, fairy tale. It's loving. It's funny, and it's the type of film that you watched on VHS, like taped over an episode of Pop Idol when you were 7. And you've never forgot it. And you've also never... And like, it actually was missing a few scenes because you stopped the recorder by accident, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure that's how I saw The Princess Bride. It was on this, like, tape. So it's got that nostalgia element, too. Then we have Hot Rod, which I don't know if I know what Hot Rod is. I'm just actually Googling it now. So Hot Rod is an Andy Samberg comedy about being a stuntman. I'm not even going to comment on this because I've never watched. Is it Brooklyn Nine-Nine or is it? There's the comedy. Everyone's screaming at their earpods right now, telling me what the name of that show is. But Andy Samberg's in that one. Anyway, so I won't comment on that. But Hot Rod, apparently it's a comfort movie. Number 4, Bridget Jones's Diary. The whole series actually, which follower at Jack_1609 said, Bridget Jones' Diary 1 and the newest one if it's available. I completely agree. Actually, the newest Bridget Jones, which was called what? Was it Bridget Jones' Baby? No, that was the third one. What was it called? Anyway, that was my favourite Bridget Jones, and that would certainly be a comfort movie for me. Number 5, probably the best film on the list so far, is The Truman Show, an all-time great movie, also a comfort movie, because there's something really warm about the claustrophobia of that movie, and sort of like you're somewhere safe in a way, but then like as you discover the treachery within and you break out with Truman, if you're lying there ill, it's a metaphor for your entire illness, right? We can make it through. Paddington and Paddington 2 was number 6. About Time, number 7. Completely agree with this, because actually I've rewatched About Time with a critical hat on, and I don't really like some aspects of it, but it is perfect for a hangover or comfort ill movie. 500 Days of Summer was at number 8. By the way, I love the variance of this list, and it really confirms to me that you out there are a good lot of people, because I didn't get back any bullshit here. Like, you understood the assignment. You understood exactly what I meant by a comfort movie. People weren't coming back and just saying their favourite films, you know? Or they weren't coming back and just saying the obvious ones like Harry Potter. I mean, people did say Harry Potter. But, like, I love that there's just some, like, variance here. Like, 500 Days of Summer is it's not forgotten, but it's a relatively under-discussed rom-com from that era. And it's very sweet. A Knight's Tale at number 9 is my favourite pick. I circled it on my Instagram story, reposted the screenshot. A Knight's Tale, Heath Ledger, kind of random as fuck, jousting romance comedy, but it's not even a romance. I don't even know what it is. That's quite emotional, and there's like a love triangle-ish, and it's got Paul Bettany in it. I fucking love that film. I love A Knight's Tale at number 9. That could be my number 1 out of all these. And then Barbie was at number 10, which is interesting to me because it's obviously going for like it's going for that. It's deliberately going for that commercialized, sanitized vibe, and I don't find that comforting personally. But you know, fair play to you all. So that was great. List of the top 10 comfort movies. Sipping my juice to celebrate. Oh, big gulp. All right. We're going to move on to my experience at Fantastic Four this morning. Firstly, by talking about the Avatar trailer. So I love this new trend. Well, is it a trend? It's 2 films. With the Odyssey and Avatar Fire and Ash, I think it's called. Where those 2 trailers have been released exclusively before films in cinemas and not on YouTube concurrently. They'll obviously be released on YouTube eventually. But as a marketing tactic from 2 GOAT directors who are cinema centric, you know, they're all for the cinema experience. It's a great decision, and it really showcases their sensibilities and passions in the industry of cinema. Passion for the industry of cinema, sorry. And so I think that it's a great way to compel people to go, to be honest. Like, to a certain extent, I went to fucking see Jurassic World Rebirth so I could just see the Odyssey trailer. Anyway, that was before this film again, actually. And then I also saw the Avatar Fire and Ash trailer. I've only got 3 notes for this trailer. Number 1, I hated Avatar 2, The Way of Water. Hated it. I think on my Letterboxd, I might not have been doing Letterboxd at that point, but if I was, I think I gave it like a half star or maybe a 1. And I know you can say, oh, what about the technical prowess and the leaps and bounds in the technical achievement? Yeah, you know what? That's not my problem, right? That's not my problem. When I'm that bored, that's actually not even a compelling argument for me anymore, because first and foremost, entertain me. That film made, what was it? Oh, it was definitely over $1 billion, but I think it might be $1.5 billion dollars, worldwide. And I guess it just baffles me. I guess it's due to the universality of the concept, or the universality of the narrative, which is about like saving the planet, essentially, right? It's about environmentalism. Or maybe it's just the James Cameron name just pushing it. But like, to get to 1.5 billion or whatever Way of Water earned, off the back of Avatar 1 not being like that culturally significant 10 years later, let's be honest, it really wasn't. No one talked about it. Not like Titanic, for example. To get to 1.5 billion, you really got to have a lot of legs at the box office. You got to have people going back. and back again. So I don't know who the fuck is seeing these films multiple times and not talking about them, but let's start hearing from you, because I went to see it, so I'm complicit, but I didn't go see it twice. Do you get what I'm saying? I just feel like there has to be a lot of repeated viewing to get to that level of box office. Like $1 billion, you can get to $1 billion if a lot of the world goes to see your film once. I'm just making this up in my head. This is just things this is just what I perceive, right? But to get to $1.5 billion to $2 billion range, I feel like you have to have most people in the kind of cinema going world to go see it, and then some of them to go see it again. That's just my opinion. Who the fuck is seeing Way of Water again? I don't know. Fire and Ash, I'll obviously go see it, which again, I guess I'm being a hypocrite there, because like I'm going to then contribute to the giant box office that it inevitably will get. But it's the legs that I'm confused about. Yes, it'll get $1 billion because everyone will go check it out. But if it gets another $1.5 billion or whatever, I'm going to be like, what's going on? Well, do you know what? I'm actually judging Fire and Ash before it's come out. Do you know what? Forget that. It might be really good. I take that back. But what I will go on to say is that this definitely looks like more of the same. That's note 2. More of the same bullshit. And you can get vibes from trailers for sure. I've spoken in the past about how I don't like spoilers in trailers, and often I don't like watching trailers. I think when it comes to Avatar 3, especially after disliking Avatar 2, I'm kind of watching it, and I went to cinema early, because sometimes you turn up when the screening starts, right? I went to cinema early to see it. I'm kind of watching it to hopefully get some kind of promise, like to get some kind of hope that this is going to be decent. I didn't get that. It just looks like the same old bullshit, hacky. I agree with the message of environmentalism, but hacky environmentalism narrative. You know, I love the message, just to reiterate. Hacky characters, hacky dialogue. I just wish James Cameron wasn't spending his time doing this. And good luck to him. I hope it's fucking great. Always going with an open mind. But going on to my third point, Sam Worthington, bro. Fucking Sam Worthington hit the fucking jackpot, because that guy signed on to Avatar 1 just on the precipice of his career self-destructing. I didn't know what word I was going to use then. Absolutely being obliterated, self-obliteration of his career, because he hasn't got much acting talent. Is that fair? And yet now, he was signed on to Avatar 1, got to get him back to Avatar 2, and now 3 and 4, and I think James Cameron mentioned 5? Doing a lot of this? Hit the fucking jackpot. That not only has that bro obliterated his own acting career, he doesn't fucking need an acting career, because for every Avatar movie, he's going to be getting like 20 mil. He's going to be getting Tom Cruise Mission Impossible levels of money for someone who has zero pull on the audience. None of that box office can be attributed to Sam fucking Worthington. So anyway, the most famous man, I heard someone say this once, it made me laugh. The most famous man who you kind of can't really picture in your head, right? He is in the biggest movies ever made, for argument's sake. And I sometimes struggle to picture what his face looks like. But anyway, as always, I'll try and go in with an open mind, which brings me to Fantastic Four. What a segue. Swig of my juice there. I went in with an open mind to Fantastic Four First Steps. And I was rewarded, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm so happy to say that. I'm going to go in depth about why I feel this way, why I liked Fantastic Four First Steps. But the reason why I feel so happy to say this is because I was worried that if I didn't like this film, there could be some suspicion that I don't go into these films with an open mind. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't like Superman, because I didn't like Rebirth, because I didn't like F1. I was like, God, if I don't like Fantastic Four, I'm going to have a serious word with myself. Like, I'm going to have to really ask myself, do I like blockbusters? Do I want to see audience-friendly movies, quote unquote? Anyway, thank fuck. I like this film. So my credentials are intact. I did go in with an open mind, and I was rewarded. So first, just to say, I put on my Instagram story, "Oh, I'm looking forward to the F4, seeing F4 or whatever," and someone replied saying, "F4, F1 only just came out." I love that joke, and I replied to him and said I'm going to steal that, and I didn't. I've given them credit. Didn't write their username down actually. So I've kind of got a play-by-play critique of Fantastic Four, and I'm going to run through these. I was so relieved to see this movie have a real sweet and low-key opening. By the way, this is a spoiler review. As always, if you want the synopsis, go Google it. If you haven't seen this movie and you care about plot points, do not listen to this review just to be safe. If you don't care about plot points, if you don't care about seeing the film, whatever, carry on by all means. But this is a spoilers. Spoilers! So I was really relieved to see a sweet and low-key opening. It was really established up front that this was going to be a crazy, wild sci-fi fantasy superhero vibe embedded in real life relationship drama. Specifically that Vanessa Kirby, who plays Sue Storm. I'm not a big comic book guy, and I just do not want to get these names wrong. Sue Storm is pregnant. She is pregnanto, okay? And as the Germans say. And I love that because, like, I think most superhero films do try to ground their stories in some kind of real life drama or like emotion. Not always successful. See Superman with the fucking interview scene where Superman's like, "Oh, I don't want to meet. I don't. Shut up, mate. Shut up, mate." Right, and then soon after that, I laughed. I can't remember what it was, but there's this kind of montage scene that opens the film, and I laughed. I genuinely went like this, you know. I went like that, and that's like in a cinema for a film that's not straight up a comedy. That's like a decent laugh in the first 5 minutes, and I was like, cool. I feel like I'm softening to this already. It kind of got me. And I loved that opening. I loved this kind of... it was obviously expositional. They're kind of explaining how Fantastic Four came to be in a way that Superman tried to do with the text scroll at the start. I guess I'm comparing the two because two superhero movies 2 weeks apart. Give me a break. And it was immediately established this kind of retro 70s vibe. So it's not technically set in the 70s because obviously there's like major futuristic elements to this story, but the vibe is 70s, and it's such a great choice. And I assume, comic book lovers, correct me if I'm wrong, I assume that's because either the comic books were originally written then, or the story was always set in that vibe in the comic books, or maybe both. But basically, as a decision, it really, really works. And I was so relieved to see that different aesthetic. Because obviously there's going to be a lot of CGI in this movie, but for it to be rooted in just a different texture, you know? Just a different texture, just something that was just a little bit less shiny, a little bit more tangible. Like they have this robot in their big skyscraper house, and he just feels like he's tangible. Like you can see the cogs whirring, and you can and in all the kind of like lab tests that they're doing and the little machinery that they've got in their house, it really feels tangible. And like, you know, they've got these like little gizmos. It's almost like Wallace and Gromit gizmos where it's like shelves are coming up out of the wall and, you know, whatever. It feels tactile. It feels practically done. And I like it. And that all ties back in with this like retro 70s vibe. It actually made me wonder, as a side note, I wonder if we could make that work for James Bond. Everyone says, you know, oh, let's do a period piece James Bond. Let's take it back to the 60s. And I've always been like, nah, you know, Bond's always about commenting on the current affairs and things like this. And then I'm like, now I've seen this, I'm like, maybe it can work. Because there is there's a comfort in knowing that the period is established in hindsight. Does that make sense? Like when something's so current, let's just talk about James Bond, because obviously the technology in this is different. But when something's so current, there's kind of this anxiety of like, oh, the phones and the laptops and the robotics and blah blah blah. You can almost feel it dating in real time. Again, not so much relevant to this, but there was something comforting about this. Like I say about the robotics feeling like equally futuristic, and then at the same time historically accurate. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like something that maybe could have existed. It was really cool. So I believe in this world I've written here. I believe in this aesthetic, and I'm invested in it from the beginning, and it feels cinematic. The way it's shot and the way it feels, it's cinematic to me. It's not plastic. And this was a big problem I had with the Superman movie. I didn't feel the heft. I didn't feel the weight of that world, and I certainly didn't feel the weight of Superman's powers. And you can split hairs on like aesthetically what has caused me to feel that way, but this, I feel like it's cinematic. I feel like it's tangible, more practical. Obviously, there's tons of CGI, and not plastic. So then the story kicks into gear, and the Silver Surfer glides down from space in this really enigmatic scene, floats down to Times Square, and just delivers this diatribe to Times Square. Your world is going to be eaten by Galactus ASAP, basically. That entrance absolutely slaps. It fucking rips. Like, and by that point, I don't know, it was like 20 minutes in, 30 minutes in. I was like, I'm in. I'm fucking on board. I loved the way they did it. It was just like, boom, out of nowhere, just this kind of graceful Silver Surfer gliding down. It was really tense. There was no histrionics about it. Glided down. And the way they did the sound design on the Silver Surfer's voice was really compelling, and it felt really really brooding and like really interesting and really a different way to present the plot of a superhero movie. And I felt the threat. And from there, the story really escalates to like really fantasical sci-fi effects and like what I would traditionally call bullshit, and what in Superman I really did call bullshit, because I was like, in Superman we had the portals and the interdimensional rift and all that shit that I was going on about ad nauseum. But in this, we've got a scene, again, spoiler alert, we've got a scene where the Silver Surfer is literally surfing on dust matter that is surrounding a black hole as how can I describe it? As the Fantastic Four are trying to fly a ship close enough to it so that it sucks the Silver Surfer in. Look, long story short, there was that moment where I realized what was happening in front of me on screen, and I thought, I'm all right with that. And I don't know why. I honestly can't even intellectually put my finger on why I was all right with that and why I wasn't all right with the Superman and the portals thing. And to a certain extent with the Superman one, it was what I said at the time, which was that I need Superman to be super in a normal world, not a super world. And I stand by that. But Fantastic Four, I feel like there is space in those characters in that world, from what I know of it, for more gaudy characters and more outlandish plot points, I would say, that suit the characters. Because the characters, that they have kind of silly powers. I feel like it's a more deliberately silly world, and I like that. So, and then onto the characters themselves. I thought that the core cast had really good chemistry. So we've got Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic, Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch, and we have what's the fucking guy? The Thing. He's called, right? Oh, it doesn't. I don't have his fucking name here. Who's the actor who plays him? Oh well, you know who I mean. The chemistry between them is really decent. The effect on the guy made of rocks. I think he's called the fucking Thing, right? It's clobbering time. Look, I'm sorry. I'm not a comic book guy, and I'm also terrible with names, even real people. So forgive me. Anyway, the chemistry between those was great, and it felt like their comedy was natural, and it felt like this was again something I touched on in the Superman review. Everyone in blockbusters and comic and superhero movies, especially of the last 10 years, the comedy has become monotonous. It's become one note. It's become one size fits all. It's like the same types of quips for every single character, regardless of if it suits that character. In this, I felt like there was comedy moments and quips and whatever, but I felt like they were character based. Like I wasn't hearing a quip that was said by Sue Storm that could have been said by that could have been said by the Human Torch and vice versa. I was hearing quips from the Human Torch that were the Human Torch's character, right? And equally, I was hearing quips from Mr. Fantastic that were Mr. Fantastic's character. You know, well, how would you describe that? Just nerdy, more science-based. He's more data-based. He's a thinker, right? Versus quips from the Human Torch, who is more like he's a ladsy guy. He's like he sees himself as a womanizer. These kind of things. Like the quips were character-based and they weren't homogenous, and I really appreciate that. For the most part. Also, in terms of like this outlandish action, we got black holes and portholes and fucking skipping time and bullshit in this movie. We've got a Silver Surfer trying to feel a baby inside a womb. We've got all sorts going on. But and it affects the entire world, because remember, Galactus is who is this giant fucking guy, by the way, played by Ralph Ineson, I think his name is, who was famously Finchy in the UK Office. What a fucking career he's gone on to have, by the way. Still not as famous as Sam Worthington. This affects the whole world. Galactus is threatening to eat the entire world, right? And yet, the story strays far into outer space, but on Earth, never strays beyond New York. I fucking love that decision, okay? Because this was something that bothered me about Superman. Just do it in New York, right? They're a New York bunch of guys, and they're based in New York. Just do it in New York. It's fine, okay? And so, but at the end, Galactus is coming to attack Earth, but obviously he chooses to start that attack in New York. And the kind of like coincidence of that I find really funny and entertaining. Sipping my juice. What I will say is, though, New York or not, fundamentally, it started to lose me a little bit in the final act, because when Galactus was threatening to come and he was kind of getting closer and closer on his ship, I was struggling to like picture. Okay, I was like, okay, this guy looked fucking huge. Like, how is he even going to exist on? Is he going to be on his? How big is this fucking guy going to look on Earth? And I was like, that's going to look fucking ridiculous. And it kind of did look a bit ridiculous. But there were some cool moments. Like, he kind of steps down on Earth. He grabs a whole big ball of turf and gives it a sniff. And Joseph Quinn, the Human Torch, does this funny reaction of like, what's he fucking doing? Sniffing the turf like a bit of caviar or something. But do you know what? I think they kind of pulled it off. I think like it kind of was all seated and baked correctly into like the world, this kind of silliness of the world that had been put to me, and it kind of worked in the end. I kind of didn't mind the visuals towards the end. I did wonder as he was stepping around New York, Galactus, I was like, there's no way the subway tunnels would hold under that weight, And so that was maybe me starting to kind of like wane a little bit in terms of my engagement. The fact that I was worried that the tube tunnels not breaking underneath the weight of Galactus was a slight plot hole. Obviously, it's not. And a part of me was like, oh, obviously, I don't know this for sure, but I'm just assuming that Galactus is a big part of the Fantastic Four comic books, right? And so for that reason, go for it, put him in the film. Just like as a dispassionate, like impartial, non-comic book reading viewer, I do feel like Galactus is possibly slightly too large of a villain for the Fantastic Four to deal with. Does that make sense? Like the powers that the Fantastic Four have, they're actually quite like not rudimentary, but inconsequential powers, right? Mr. Fantastic is just very stretchy. The Human Torch is just a guy who can go on fire, for example. And this the guy made of rock. He's called the Thing, right? He is called the fucking Thing. I need to just fucking he's called the Thing. Jesus, I'm stressing myself out. He's called the Thing, and the Thing is just like a guy made of rocks who's like a bit strong. I'm like, Galactus is a bit of a lofty villain to have in Fantastic Four, in terms of size ratio. But anyway, they get it done, don't they? They get it done. And like I say, I'm sure he was a big part of the comic book, so it really doesn't bother me in general. And you know what? The ending really landed the plane. It was a real cool ending. Like, I really felt like, yes, there was all this bullshit going on, and yes, they were trying to push Galactus again into a giant fucking chasm in the universe or whatever, just big fucking black hole, just suck him in, right? Send him billions of light years away. But they landed the plane on bringing that back to it being a family affair. And again, so many superhero movies try and do this. I'm not saying they're reinventing the wheel, but I think this time they landed the plane on it. And what they did well as well was that after that final sequence is over, it wraps up sharpish, wraps it up, yeah? And it calls back to the start of the movie, has a real fun ending, nice little comedy beat, and then boom, we're done. Fantastic Four, first steps, and I'm in. Congrats, Marvel. In my opinion, you've won the summer over Superman and over Jurassic and F1, for fuck's sake. But I'm going to come on to talk about the box office potential, actually. So my knowledge of Fantastic Four before I saw this film, as you can tell, was low. And it was based almost entirely on the 2005 Fantastic Four with Chris Evans in it and Jessica Alba and co. I was 12 when that movie came out. I absolutely loved it. It was I don't know if it was one of the first DVDs that I bought, but it was a DVD that I bought, and I think it was early days. And I loved it, right? I haven't really been back to watch that film, but I think that I'm happy to know that I was 12 and I loved it, and it did its job for a 12-year-old me. So I asked myself, I came out and I was like, I'm 32, I enjoyed that. But I immediately asked myself, I was like, will 12-year-olds enjoy this? Would 12-year-old me enjoy this? Absolutely fucking yes, 100% yes. They've smashed it. I really think they've smashed it. So me personally, I'm going to give this, as a 32-year-old who doesn't really like superhero movies, I'm going to give this on Letterboxd 3 stars. Absolute recommendation from me. I think it's entertaining. For me, it's a much better time than Superman. Give it a go, and that's coming from me. But in terms of the intentions of the movie and the success therein, this is made for 12-year-olds, and they'll fucking love it. So congrats. I think they smashed it. Thumbs up from me. So that's that review over, but I also, sipping my juice. God, it feels good not to rant about something. I also want to talk about, will it do well at the box office? Because I don't know. So yes, 12-year-olds will love it, but are there enough 12-year-olds left with pocket money or with parents who can be asked to go to the cinema again? Because if we're talking from the parents' point of view, we might have a bit of summer movie-going fatigue here for those parents, and maybe even for the kids. We've had Superman 2 weeks ago. We had Jurassic Rebirth before that. We had F1 before that. And we had Mission before that. And like I said at the end of the Superman review, that's a long line of films that, give or take, you as a parent would think I might take my 12-year-old to see this. Every single one. Like I say, give or take. And so we get into Fantastic Four, and in my opinion, it might actually be my favourite of those mentioned, maybe on a par with Mission Final Reckoning, which really had its flaws. And yeah, I think it's just come at the end of such a long line. I'm like, can it really do well? And so Superman is currently resting at around, as I speak, it was resting at around 450 million worldwide box office. It really kind of needed to get to 700 to wash its face in terms of its budget and to justify the extended DCU that's coming. I don't think it's going to make it there, because by the time this comes out, this is probably going to suck up what maybe could have been repeated viewing for Superman, right? Even though there was a lot of good sentiment about Superman, you know, those people might end up being like, okay, I'll go see this Fantastic Four instead. So that's fine. Fantastic Four will definitely have an initial audience. But is it going to be bigger than those kind of like 12-year-olds? Is it going to be bigger than the comic book nerds? Is it going to be bigger than the movie nerds? Are the parents going to be asked to go again? Are the wider public going to be asked to go again? For example, my sister went to see Superman kind of midweek, I think even this week. And that's unusual for her to go to cinema. She'd heard good things. I told her, good fucking luck. I hope you get out there alive. She didn't really like it. I said, I told you so. But that's not the point. The point is that she went, right? Is she going to go again to a Fantastic Four? Absolutely not. And whenever I'm unsure about, like, how will something do at the box office, I always think, will my sister go? Will my mum go? You know, these people who don't really give a shit. Because we give a shit, right? We're going to go, probably. But I really think there's some summer fatigue, and so I'm like, Superman for me is probably going to end up somewhere around 550, 600 max. Fantastic Four, like Thunderbolts got 400 or 350, 400, and Captain America got 400, 450. That's kind of the level we're talking for Fantastic Four. In it, I think if it's lucky, it'll get 500. But I think it deserves more. But I think with the fatigue of this summer, I think it's going to get more like 400, 450. So that's a question mark over Kevin Feige's future. Like, can he? He said he might want to do other roles in the future. Marvel's fulfilling him for now, but maybe the time might come sooner than people want for Kevin Feige to move on from Marvel. To be honest, maybe it just needs a bit more of a new creative perspective. And then I got to thinking about, Marvel's box office in recent times has not been good. You know, Captain America Brave New World and Thunderbolts, if those movies were hypothetically part of Phase 3 and released in like 2017 or whatever, they would have earned about $1 billion at box office. Like every single one was slapping it out of the park at that point. 700 million to $1 billion. And now they're not. They're making 400 to 500 million. I think Thunderbolts again was like 350. This is worldwide figures. And I was thinking, why is that, right? And so I started to look into it. And I think there are multiple reasons, and I'm trying to pick out the most important one, but it's difficult. First reason I think is superhero fatigue. So I got a little bit of data point here from listeners of The Town with Matt Belloni will know that I got this from that podcast. I thought it was a really interesting data point. I thought I'll nick this. From 2008 to 2019, so that's an 11-year period, Marvel released 50 hours worth of content. So that's everything from films to TV shows, right? So that's from everything from Iron Man 1 to Endgame. From 2019 to 2025, so that's a 6-year window after Endgame to present day, Marvel have released 102 hours, so more than double from the original 50. 102 hours of content. That's including movies and TV. So I think that has generated a sense of inertia and confusion amongst the mid to low tier viewers. So that would be me included. Of like, oh, what's going on, and what plots have I got behind on, and like who are they, and the multiverse and blah blah. So that's one thing. The second thing, I think, is a narrative problem that is twofold. I don't think the narrative arc is as well defined as it was in like the phase 3 leading up to Endgame. I think the reason for that is because there's a fallibility of the narrative that has come from the box office failings of recent. So I think it's like a catch-22 chicken and the egg situation. What I mean by that is they've proven, Marvel, that they can change the narrative on a whim if the money stops coming. So leading up to Endgame, it was a bit haphazard, but everyone was like, oh, wow, they're managing to tie all these movies together, and wow, they landed the plane on Endgame. And they really did. They really did land the plane on Endgame. One of the most successful cinematic achievements, I think, of the contemporary era, right? And then they tried to do it again. And we're now in this was the start of phase 6, right? Fantastic Four. I don't really give a shit about these terms, but since we're talking about it, this is start of phase 6. The narrative has been proven to be fallible and kind of bullshit and inconsequential because every single time a movie hasn't done well, everything since Spider-Man No Way Home, through the Multiverse of Madness, through I think they did another Ant-Man, did they? And the Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolts, all these steps, right? Every time the money hasn't come in, there's been murmurings that the narrative heading towards Avengers Doomsday is going to be shifted and has been shifted multiple times. And again, I'm not enough of a fan to pick out the exact plot points or narrative arcs that have been shifted. But for those of you who know better than me, you will know that they have. I just remember general stories about it. And this has come to the fact that Doomsday reportedly hasn't even got a third act written, and it's being filmed currently. And why is that? It's because they're still, in my opinion, they're not sure on the narrative arc, and they don't even really know what book they're trying to close at the end of Doomsday. And that's because you look back at the Endgame era and you think, well, wow, they really landed the plane on that narrative, and wow, they must have planned that narrative so far in advance. And now I think the audience has kind of seen the true colours, and they're like, it probably wasn't that predetermined. It probably just looked quite smooth sailing because they never had a financial hitch to recorrect from, And now they have multiple. And so now we see they just change the story when they want. And that then kills the kind of stakes of the story. So that's my next point. There is a reduction in stakes from that, but also from the introduction of the multiverse. And I mentioned this with the Superman portals and stuff like that. I was like, don't introduce portals into the DCU because you reduce the stakes of the whole kit and caboodle. If you introduce multiverse elements, then you kind of introduce this like element of no one can really die, right? No one can really die for good, because not only have we had characters come back from multiverse mechanisms, but we've had characters that weren't even part of the MCU come back. So, as we know, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire as different Spider-Mans in Spider-Man No Way Home. So for me, that reduces the stakes, because that tells the audience we can kind of do anything and, nothing really matters. And if this character dies, we could probably just go to another universe and get them back. And if Iron Man dies, then we'll get Robert Downey Jr. back as Doctor Doom. We got Thor back. We got everyone back. Come see it. We got everyone back. And I'm just like, it's all well and good getting all the fan favorites back, but then the stories start to feel even more inconsequential, even more than they already did. Because you're like, well, why the fuck should I care? You're just shoving visual popcorn in my eyeballs, and I'm just shitting it out, and none of it matters. So I've heard this argument that they're not doing as well nowadays because there's a reduction in quality. I completely disagree. I think the quality has actually been relatively static. Most of them have been okay. Some of them have been great, and I'm talking back to phase 3 now as well, phase 2, whatever. But a lot of them have been shit, right? And that is even going back to the pre-Endgame era. A lot of them have been shit. But they always were sometimes shit. Like Thor: The Dark World absolutely sucks. Captain Marvel kind of sucks, okay? this is not a new thing that Marvel movies aren't that great sometimes. What's changed is the X, Y, and Z that I just mentioned that has stopped people going. People were very willing to go and see not very good films, and now they're not. So I don't buy that as an argument. So I think one final point is there's a slight demographic issue, right? Which is that if you make an MCU or superhero movies in general for a certain demographic, maybe it's like a post-Dark Knight, we want it to be slightly darker and grittier, but we still have the comic book elements, and then that generation grow older. You know, Iron Man came out in 2008. It's now 2025. You know, what is that, 17 years later? So the people like me who were 15 when Iron Man came out, we're now 32, and we're married, right? And so it's kind of like it is what it is. These things happen. Like, the audience grows up, and I'm not saying you can't love comic book movies when you're 32. Of course you can. You can love whatever the fuck you want. But I'm just saying not everyone retains that interest when they're 32 and beyond. And so all these issues has led to a lack of commitment to new characters, over-reliance on old characters and performers, a lack of iteration on the story, or maybe too much iteration with the multiverse things, a lack of narrative direction. So now we have Doomsday coming out, and people will see it for nostalgia and not for narrative. When people were going to Endgame, they flooded there, and they flooded there again on a rewatch because they were like, oh my God, this lands the plane on the longest running cinematic narrative in history. They fucking did it, and it makes sense. And how does it make sense, right? Doomsday has no narrative impetus, so it will make the money. It'll certainly make over $1 billion, just out of pure nostalgia. Just like Spider-Man No Way Home. You know, it was a nice, fun event, carnival, roller coaster ride of a movie. Hey, here's all your favorite things. Woo! And like, I had a great time at No Way Home. It went on the night. I had a great time. Have I watched it again? Absolutely fucking not. So Doomsday's got the No Way Home effect. It's got the Deadpool versus Wolverine effect, but it has not got the Endgame effect. And for that reason, it won't come close to those Endgame numbers. So that's the end of Fred Asquith on Film, but I leave you with one thing. Someone DM'd me, a very lovely DM, saying they really loved the poddy. Thanks very much again for that DM. And they said that they work for Salisbury Cathedral in Salisbury, which is down out southwest end of London, if you don't know where it is, because I had to Google it. And they've told me that there is an event coming up that's called Roger Sayer Interstellar in Concert. Interstellar is one of my favourite movies, by the way, and as you know, the score for Interstellar is majestic. And Roger Sayer is the original, let me just get this right, get the instrument right, the original organist on Christopher Nolan's Interstellar soundtrack, and he's going to be performing the Interstellar soundtrack at Salisbury Cathedral. I imagine that's going to be such a wonderful backdrop to such a borderline religious experience, hearing that wonderful soundtrack at Salisbury Cathedral. And just wanted a bit of a shout out, and I was like, I'm happy to give this a shout out. It's £12.50 for adults, £5 for students. Get yourself down there. Sounds like it's going to be a great fucking time. So that's the end of Fred Asquith on Film. Same name on TikTok, same name on Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and next week we're going to review Bring Her Back, which I saw only yesterday. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm gathering my notes. I'm girding my loins for that review, and I'm going to review for you certainly before that is released to the wider general public next Friday. So looking forward to that. Thanks so much for listening. I will see you next time.